Alright kids, I'm back, this time with an English project. And unlike last time where I sat and babbled in front of a camera while baking a cake, I'm gonna do this a little bit differently. I'm gonna record some stuff, and then I'm gonna edit it all. There's gonna be so much editing, and I'm gonna hate it. I'm gonna hate every second of this, but you know what? In the end, it's gonna be amazing because I'm cool. So, for this project, I have 2 stories that we read in my English class. I'm going to give you a basic summary of each story. Then we're going to go over some basic traits of each of the main characters, and then after that, we will be going over which of them would win in a fight. Yeah, that's what this is about. Anyway, on to the stories. So the first story that I will be going over is titled The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe. So before I begin this story, Amontillado is just a dry wine from Spain. That's what that is. The story is set in Italy, and it's basically just these 2 guys at a little festival is how we start off. So, we start with our 2 guys, Montresor and Fortunato. The story begins with Montresor having a quick little therapy session with himself, talking about how much he hates Fortunato and that he wants to kill him. Meanwhile, Fortunato still thinks that they are best buddies for life and would never, ever, ever hurt each other. But you know, stuff happens. It's called life. Get used to it. So apparently Fortunato pissed off Montresor on accident, and he must have done something pretty bad since his quote-unquote bestie now wants to murder him. Anyway, these 2 guys meet up at their little festival. Montresor has the nicest threads on, and Fortunato is wearing a jester hat with some bells on it, since, you know, they're at a carnival. So they get to talking, and Montresor casually mentions that he has a giant cask of insanely expensive Amontillado in the catacombs beneath his house. Kind of a weird place to store wine, if you ask me, since, if you don't know, catacombs are basically mass graves in a dungeon. So Fortunato just so happens to really like wine. So Montresor convinces his best buddy to go into his basement, which is literally a mass grave, to try his cool wine. Once they're down in the basement full of dead bodies, Montresor starts giving Fortunato lots of cheap little wine to drunken him up. And now we've got an oblivious drunk guy stuck in the hands of his best friend, who's actually his biggest nemesis. Eventually, they pause their little walk so Fortunato can do some weird little magic-looking thing with his hands, kind of like this. And Montresor's like, dude, what the hell was that? And Fortunato is like, oh, so you're not a mason. So Montresor pulls out a trowel out of his trench coat, like a cartoon character, and is like, oh yeah, want to bet? And then they laugh and they keep walking. But this time, the guys come up to a little closet-looking spot in the wall, and Montresor tells Fortunato to go first because the wine's in there. So off goes Fortunato. Montresor follows him and then chains him to the floor in this little closet in his basement full of dead bodies. He gets out his handy-dandy trowel from earlier, and he walls up the little closet space and leaves Fortunato in there to die. And that's pretty much it. What a lovely little story. 2 best buds. Alright, the next story is titled Young Goodman Brown by Nathaniel Hawthorne. This one is set in Salem. You know that place that had the Salem witch trials? That place. That Salem. With all the Puritans. We're back in those days. Alright, so we start with our main guy, young Goodman Brown, and he's talking to his wife, whose name is Faith. They're having a nice little conversation, and then Goodman Brown goes on his way into the woods. He's going to meet the devil. Ooh, spooky. And he's a little bit ashamed of himself, as he should be, but then he decides that he's perfectly justified as long as he loves his wife. So he keeps walking, and eventually the devil shows up. They talk and walk together for a while. Eventually, they see a little old woman walking around in front of them. So Brown decides that he's going to go hide so that this old woman doesn't know that he's talking with the devil. So the devil starts talking to the old lady that Brown thought was a good Christian, but she's actually a witch. So the devil talks to this old lady witch, whose name is Goody Klaus, and then goes on his way to keep talking with Brown. Shortly after that, Goodman Brown decides that he's not going to go any farther. He's just going to sit on this rock right next to him. And the devil's like, alright, cool. You do whatever you want. Here, have my walking stick, bro. I'll see you later. And then he leaves Goodman Brown sitting on his rock by himself, like the sad little man that he is. And then like a minute later, he hears some horses walking down the path, and he decides that he's going to hide in the woods behind his little rock. So now he's hiding from some horses who happen to be being rode by the minister and the deacon of the town. He hears these two guys talking about a meeting and something about a young woman. So Brown still doesn't want to go any farther. And then he hears the sky talking, that the sky is talking. Anyway, the talking sky kind of sounds like his wife. And then he finds part of her clothes in a tree. And like that's his breaking point. That's when he starts yelling like a crazy guy. And he starts running after the minister and the deacon. He runs through the forest, and eventually he sees some light up ahead, and he goes towards it. And when he reaches it, he's in this clearing. And there's a giant rock that looks like an altar. No, not that. More like this. And all the people from his good Christian town are there, except plot twist, they're demon worshippers. Oh, and everything is on fire. So everybody starts singing hymns, and then Brown sees his wife being brought up to the altar, and then a demon guy rises up from the flames and starts babbling on about devil worship and how everybody is evil. Brown starts yelling at his wife to resist the devil, but then everything just like disappears. So now he's just chilling in the woods by himself. In the woods. And he's like, I'm gonna go home now. And he goes home, and he's looking around, and he's like, all these people that they're praying and they're smiling and they're all being good Christians. This is a bunch of garbage. They're all liars. What the hell is this? I just saw this, and y'all are liars. So from that day forward, Goodman Brown despised Christianity. He never wanted to go to church. He was a mean little prick to everybody, and eventually, he dies, and he gets buried and gets literally nothing on his gravestone. He just gets a blank gravestone, which is fair, because he turned into a prick. Anyway, that's the end of that. Alright, so now that you have a basic knowledge of each story, we're going to go over our two main characters, Goodman Brown and Montresor. We're just going to go over their basic, character traits. We're not even going to go over it. I'm just going to insert a chart, and it's going to be there for, 5 seconds, and you can pause the video to read it, because I'm getting tired of editing, okay? And I read the stories off to you, because having the basic, outline of the story helps the traits of the characters make more sense after you know kind of how they act in their story and whatnot. So here's your little chart. Cool. Okay, well, now that you've gone over the character traits on your own, because I really don't care about that part that much, now we're going to talk about what really makes this video. The part where we determine who wins in a fight. However, me being a huge Rick and Morty fan, we have to go over this in more than one circumstance, or universe, or timeline, as I should say. Because, there's infinite universes. My fellow Rick and Morty fans, they would know. Anyways, so we will do 5 different circumstances, and whoever wins the most of them is the ultimate winner. That's how we're doing this. Rock, paper, scissors style. Best out of 5 instead of 3, because 5 is better. Circumstance number 1. Classic fist fight. We have a classic fist fight here. Montresor versus Goodman Brown. But, Goodman Brown, he's too much of a good guy. I don't think, he couldn't throw a punch for the life of him. So Montresor wins. Montresor literally murdered somebody. Montresor wins this one for sure. That one was easy. That one was so easy. Okay. Circumstance 2. Insults. A roast battle, if you will. For this one, I'm thinking that Montresor kind of starts it off, but, Goodman Brown, he seems like the kind of guy who, like, as we saw, he got very, very, very aggressive when his wife was brought into the matter. And Montresor seems like the kind of person who would bring his wife into the matter. So I feel like Montresor would somehow insult his wife, and then Goodman Brown would, like, just get really aggressive. It would just insult the living hell out of Montresor. So I think Goodman Brown's gonna win the verbal insulting. That one's on Goodman Brown for sure. Circumstance number 3. We'll go with a knife fight. In a knife fight, this one's kind of interesting because it's kind of hard to defend yourself from a knife unless you also have a knife. So I could definitely see Goodman Brown, like, defending himself from Montresor. If anything, in this circumstance, I feel like Goodman Brown would probably win on accident. He would accidentally kill Montresor out of self-defense. Goodman Brown would be so concerned about defending himself and making sure that he lives to see his wife the next day that he would accidentally, like, kill Montresor on accident. Maybe not kill him, but at least stab him, Circumstance number 4. We are just flying through these. If you couldn't tell, I'm coming up with these off the top of my head. Circumstance number 4 will be... Let's say that for some odd reason, these two men from the 1800s, if not before the 1800s even, end up in a rap battle. That's going to be circumstance number 4. Goodman Brown versus Montresor in a rap battle. Montresor would definitely win that one. Montresor for sure is going to win that one. I can just tell. I feel like Goodman Brown he just would kind of stand there and he just wouldn't know what to rap about. Montresor is pretty good at just coming up with things off the top of his head. Goodman Brown, not so much. Montresor, he's a master manipulator. He knows what he's doing. He could definitely beat Goodman Brown in a rap battle for sure. Circumstance number 5. Sandcastle building. Who can build the better sandcastle? This one doesn't involve violence. Like, it's still technically a fight because a fight is a competition. A competition is a fight. Therefore, it technically still counts. So if they're building sandcastles, Goodman Brown, he's going to go all out with this. He's going to do his very best. He's going to build his best sandcastle he can possibly come up with. Montresor is probably going to be like, why are we doing this? I don't get it. Why? What am I, 5? Goodman Brown's going to be building the way, though. I feel like Goodman Brown would win this one simply because Montresor seems like the kind of guy who just wouldn't want to build a sandcastle. He just simply wouldn't wanna. He wouldn't want to get his hands that dirty. Like, yeah, he did kill his best friend, but, like, he didn't have to get his hands insanely dirty for that. He just kind of locked him up and left him to starve. Like, yeah, so he is like a mason. Like, he does, like, build stuff like walls and stuff like that. But, like, bricks and sand are two entirely different mediums. So I feel like he would try, realize how difficult it is and how different from brick it is, and Montresor would probably give up. He'd build, like, a small little hill, and he would just give up and be done. But Goodman Brown he'd be living his best life. He'd be like, heck yeah, sand castle. Amazing. Let's go. So, yeah. And if I'm correct, that means that Goodman Brown is our overall winner. Woo! Now, I could keep going. I could just start going off with, like, hundreds of circumstances. We could go real Rick and Morty up in here. But I'm not going to do that for the sake of I have to edit all of this. And I don't feel like editing anymore. So, that's it. We have determined that Goodman Brown is our overall winner. Funny enough, because of simple self-defense, defending his wife, and not being afraid to play in the sand. I think that's a pretty fair reason to win. Anyways, well, that is it. That is all I have for you for this video today. So I will see you guys next time, if there is a next time, which hopefully there will be. And if there aren't any more school projects in the future, I'll figure something out. There's always something to make a video about. Trust me, I'll find a way. Anyways, bye!